in a radiated wasteland.
Personally, I don't mind a text opening, but for this movie's purposes, Carl Urban's biting, grizzled voice eases us into Dredd's personality in an effective way.
Outside the boundary walls, a desert, the cursed earth.
Comic fans were still nervous. Maybe that was a one-off, but referencing arguably one of the most popular Dredd comics is a good start. Hand explodey shadowing. Or, since this is Chekhov's gun ID scanner, Bones must have borrowed it from Chekhov. Okay, 2 things. Number 1, yes to this title card. So hardcore, so perfectly fitting for this adaptation. And number 2, yes to this score. This may come up a lot. Something that's been brought up plenty, but this is the start of Dredd never removing his helmet, just like his comic counterpart. They actually drew his face in early issues and then decided to censor it for publication. 3 minutes in, and the main thing that stands out is sound design. Even beyond the score, which I might add seamlessly intertwines with the engine sounds echoing on the highway, this switch from speed and power to the slow-mo effect is killer. Also love the unearthly, sparkly, and brightly sunlit visualization slow-mo induces.
Do you require backup?
No!
Trademark grimace and confidence. But in relation to that, I love that the first part of this chase has no close-up on Dredd, really playing into the comic feel of his aura rather than trying to sell Carl Urban. Belly wheel! But I don't think this guy would actually qualify for the League of Fatties. That's not fattest, it's a story thread in 2000 AD. Look it up.
Multiple wounded and bodies for recycling.
Love this subtle recycling allusion to cannibalism. Just put 2 and 2 together. Irradiated desert wasteland, concrete landscape. Anyone farming? No? Lots of dead bodies. 6 minutes in and Pete Travis has already used some intriguing yet simple camera work, all doing a great job of keeping Dredd as a mythical figure. Following him up to the accident by his lawgiver sidearm and then having him creep into frame through this reflection.
I said, hot shot.
So, that's pretty brutal. Do I need a brutal counter? I think I do. There goes monetization. What a cold open. In a short period of time, it quickly establishes the barbarous nature of this world. Bystanders are relatively unfazed by a shootout in the middle of the street. Innocents are casually murdered and their deaths equally casually reported. And it only takes 30 minutes for Sparrow to start slinging pizzas again after a multiple homicide. Because this is just part of their lives. Most importantly, we learn that judges encompass all the parts of the current judicial system and exact justice swiftly.
Or in a block 100 meters from the radiation boundary wall.
She's a mutant.
She's the most powerful psychic we've ever come across.
The world being a literal post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland and children growing up too close to the fallout ending up with radiation mutations is a totally believable setup for psychic powers.
Sink or swim. Chuck her in the deep end.
It's all a deep end.
2 extra counters, you say? You think we need a one-liner counter? Okay, you're probably right. Now we get a full view of the slow-mo effect, and how magnificent is this? Jumping the gun a bit here, but after seeing this movie a couple times, this scene has a new meaning to me. Sure, it's another showcase of the amazing slow-mo effect, and sure, Mama's a user who's also evil and vicious. But not without cause. The scars on her face allude to a backstory that's expounded on later. She's broken, and she had to break in order to survive. Her bath time gives us a glimpse into someone looking to escape. Just creating beautiful imagery for her brain with the splashing water. And her expression shifting from euphoria to reality is a perfect illustration of that.
We're selling Sternhammer product on my level.
I'm no 2000 AD or Star-Lord expert, but I know that's based on Wolf Sternhammer, who apparently has his own block in Mega City 1? That, in addition to Hottie House, Kenny Who, No Muties, and an expletive written on this jacket are some of the fun comic references in this movie.
Hit him with a little slow-mo first.
Sure.
And I mean, that's a broken person response. Brutal. Also 3 murder-death kills. Wait, wrong mid-90s Stallone dystopian future movie with Rob Schneider. Also, you guys put Diane Lane in this movie and didn't even show her on screen?
3 weeks ISO cubes, but prioritize murders?
Correct. Don't be here when we get back.
Generosity.
Yes, I believe I can make a difference.
Admirable.
Perfect fit for Vitalik's Poison Lips. Since, you know, these kids are poisoning themselves through their lips.
Or a helmet can interfere with my psychic abilities.
I think a bullet might interfere with them more.
Honesty. Quite possibly the coolest of the slow-mo sequences. The type that makes the slow-mo guys jealous. Well, except for Gavin since he worked on this slow-mo. And if you listen carefully, or speed it up, you can still hear Poison Lips in there, but giving off a totally different mood. And some of the most brutal slow motion I've ever seen. And sort of an expectation subversion to slow the second real action gunfight scene in this movie down like this.
Save me a lot of paperwork if you just confess right now.
Optimism.
There's a problem on level 39.
General Hux's first position in the first order.
Don't have you down for a death contact.
Yeah, we must be. If you check the,
I've got nothing.
Oh, I love how Mama doesn't have to say anything. Just her presence is enough. That's power. Lena Headey is always a win.
Sir, he's thinking about making a move for your gun.
Yeah.
He just changed his mind.
Yeah.
Stand clear of doors.
If I hear of anyone helping the judges, I will kill them and the next generation of their family.
So Mama's like one of the scariest adversaries ever. Next generation of your family too? But I'd like to give the usually stunning Lena Headey some props for really embracing the evil, gnarled villain with the face scars, teeth, and that hair.
Sit tight or run. Makes no difference, you're mine.
Call it.
Sir?
You're on assessment, rookie. Call it.
One thing that sets Dredd apart from the other buddy cop or die-hard type trapped in an extraordinary escalating situation movie is Dredd himself. Regardless of circumstances, Anderson is still being tested and Dredd is going to give her the lead, even if it kills them both. Ooh, so they teased the Dredd theme during the second smoke-filled fight to cut it out and then bring it back when the bullets start flying again.
Let's give him a good nose.
I'm also a fan of these 3 different aesthetics for the first 3 gun battles in Peachtrees. Slow-mo, green gas, and then flashbang.
There are no sides. You're already dead.
That was your first mistake. You don't one-liner Dredd. Dredd one-liners you.
Secure the woman somewhere she can't raise any alarms.
She has a baby. We can't secure her if we don't know when she'll be freed.
Compassion. I'm gonna get into it a little more in depth later, and this is a little on the nose. But this is the first time the morality of this world comes into question. You spelled Midnight Surfer wrong.
You might not want to get taken alive. Your call.
I was trying to shock you out of thinking about this.
Even in a decently gory movie like Dredd, the filmmakers know the theater of your mind is generally much worse than anything they can show you. Alright, as far as gratuitous action and violence go, this is one of the craziest set pieces in the film. Mama's complete lack of concern for human life, and this is probably the first time Dredd has been genuinely worried. Also, let's throw a couple of these up there. The jaundiced glow from the minigun's muzzle flash in Mama's eyes. This little moment of reprieve where escape seems so close for Anderson, but then actually pivots to the crushing realization that there is no escape even if they make it out alive. It's just another mega block tomorrow, and the insanity in Peachtrees isn't unique. Badass Dredd. Ugh, love how often only Dredd's mouth is in frame. Movies with the main character behind a mask can feel disconnecting, but because of this framing and the fact that Karl Urban puts so much animation into the lower half of his face, we never feel that way.
It's kind of empty in here.
Psychic burn. Ooh, smart play to let Kay use your lawgiver in his head. Also, just in general, seeing her mess with Kay, who thinks he has control, is pretty satisfying.
Stun!
Even the uncompromising Dredd shows some mercy to the kids.
But instead you let yourself get taken like the dumb f*** you are.
But I'm
Badass bad girl.
Mama is not the law. I am the law.
Okay, normally I would just let that line speak for itself, but holy crap is Karl Urban's delivery spot on.
I am the law. Guilty of the manufacture and distribution of the narcotic known as slow-mo.
Hey, that's us. He's talking about us. Donald Gleason, yes. Donal, see, I got it. Donald Gleason gets a hard time for his Hux performance from some people, but man does he kill twitchy, on-edge Butters type with mechanical eyeballs like a boss.
Judgment time.
Guys, no, I swear, the wig plays, trust me.
Incendiary.
Brutal.
2 judges trigger a turf war. Judges die in pursuit of duty.
The perps who killed the judges.
Lay it out here.
Sounds right.
That's not what's happened.
You prepared to testify to that? Sure.
Apparently a medical degree doesn't buy you common sense, now does it? I told you not to one-liner Dredd.
Dead or alive?
Alive.
Make her dead.
What did I just tell you about stealing one-liners from Dredd?
Responding to a 1024.
2.
2.
2 of us called in the 1024, wondering why you didn't ask about the other one.
Intuition.
Choke on it, Dredd.
Choke on what now? Also brutal. Dredd beat me to the joke.
Choke on that.
And Chekhov's gun ID fulfillment. Unfortunately for you, that wasn't Blade's sword and you're not a vampire. Badass good girl. This cat and mouse stuff is so fun, like a video game with Paul Leonard Morgan's score killing it again.
Know what Mega City 1 is, Dredd? It's a fucking meat grinder. People go in one end, and meat comes out the other. All we do is turn the handle.
Kind of an interesting perspective that's hard to argue with. More on that later.
Lower your gun, rookie. I'm your backup.
Cool-headedness.
Hayeks.
That's It's a brutal size hole, and typically the exit wound is larger than the entrance, but I think that's actually how a Kevlar type vest would function. Smaller exit wound. I could be wrong. Although that's probably where a hardened plate of some kind would be. It looked cool.
Wait, are you kidding me? Did he just say wait? I mean, wait for what? Wait for me to change my mind? No. Wait for her to shoot you.
Tricking your adversary into monologuing.
Ready?
Yeah.
Remember this?
You ready?
Yes, sir.
You don't look ready.
Yeah, so gratifying.
You look ready.
Go. He's a victim, not a perp, and maybe that'll be the one difference I do make.
Great moment for Anderson that ends up making a bigger difference than she anticipated. Hot dang, storming the castle, working together with some sweet clearing the corners teamwork, all set to one of the most fun pieces of Paul Leonard Morgan's score, aptly named Judge, Jury, and Executioner. Hot dang! Love the hearts scattered throughout signifying Mama's gang. Never announced, just on the inhaler, on the walls, on the doors, in the tattoos.
How do you plead? Defense noted.
Love Mama framed between the judge's legs. How about the way the slow-mo makes it seem like Dredd is actually waving goodbye? But really, it would just take that long to put his hand down before she was out of sight. And I take it back. This is the best usage of slow motion in the film. And fun fact, Mama's Requiem is actually based on a Justin Bieber song slowed way down. Okay, so in the first scene when Kay says,
Hit him with a little slow-mo first.
I thought, well, that's kind of nice. You know, you're mad at them, you're making an example out of them, but let them go out high on a relaxing note. And then the movie was like, you're forgetting something.
Guess it felt like a long way down.
The one thing that makes falling to your death relatively painless is how quick it would be over. Slow that down, and yeah, no fun. Also, Mama comes into our world through slow-mo and leaves our world through slow-mo.
This entire level is rigged with enough high explosives to take out the top 50 stories. It's a transmitter synced to my heartbeat.
Yeah.
That level of confidence makes me not question his assumption about the transmitter not reaching, as if Mama is not the first one to try this exact failsafe. A moment with no words. Just Dredd doing something very I don't care about anyone or anything, let me shoot everyone. While the score takes a slight upturn as the sun starts shining again.
Your assessment's now over.
Oh, cliche dodge. What, Dredd, you don't want to call out to her and throw her badge back to her? Oh no? That's not in your character at all? Okay, cool.
Drug bust.
Look like you've been through it.
Perps were uncooperative.
Ha! There's the bookend to the savagery of Mega City 1. Just another day in the life. Doesn't even need to mention that there were 4 corrupt judges. Meh, judging is hard.
Only one thing fighting for order in the chaos. Judges.
How did this movie not get a sequel? Well, actually, I know why. And you probably have some guesses. There are certain movies that don't flop necessarily because of critical reception or by extension their inherent quality. There are films that don't make back their budgets because the audience for said films is just too small. Dredd is that film. It's rated R, it's action-centric, and it's based on a comic book. Each of those 3 things removes huge chunks of the audience. While the comic stigma is losing its teeth more and more, in 2012 we had just gotten Avengers and the MCU was still building up steam. I'm not making excuses for Dredd, but you need to look no further than the myriad reviews calling this a remake of Stallone's Judge Dredd, some even questioning if it was a sequel, not even mentioning 2080, the weekly British comic it's all based on. If critics can't be bothered to research... Anyway, I'm telling you fans, myself included, that a Dredd movie will have to do something very, very special to ever be a box office success. And it stands a good chance of being a disservice to the comic fans in the process. Best case, it becomes a cult classic, which... this is your Dredd movie. As far as I can tell, it's as good an adaptation as we can hope for. How do you reconcile the price tag you need to bring something like this to life when there aren't enough people interested to earn your money back? And to that end, how do you convince a studio to spend $100 million to make a movie about my favorite video game? You don't, so it'll get significantly less, and it'll probably be the last Metal Gear Solid movie we see. Netflix opens up new possibilities, and an episodic show is absolutely the place for Dredd to continue. Carl Urban seems to be on board, which is always promising. It's hard to tell if it's ever really going to happen. But my fingers are crossed that this IMDb start date is real. I think there's a large enough audience to support Netflix. And in the age of the 80s and 90s resurgence, Dredd might actually fit in better than Stallone's version. Stallone's acting style sort of lends itself to one-liners, but dare I say that Urban pulls it off better?
I am the law.
Chills every time. So that's all surface level stuff. Make Dredd with Carl Urban starring, Alex Garland writing, and Paul Leonard Morgan scoring somehow, some way on whatever medium you want. I'll watch it. One of the most interesting things this film does is blur the lines between the beautiful and the revolting. Terrible, terrible things are happening, but when our senses are filtered through the eyes and ears of a slow-mo user, everything is shiny, ethereal, almost soothing. And it's more than just a fun aesthetic. I talked about Mama's usage a little, but for me, it's what this film is about. Let me start by saying I'm not excusing any of the evil doers of their actions, just making the observation that maybe they are a product of this new world. The slow-mo drug, the one that makes everything sound and look pretty and releases you from time, is a direct result of the need to escape the desolate horror of Megacity 1. I know, you could say that about most drugs, but head honchos aren't always getting high on their own supply. So probably unpopular opinion, but Mama is a victim. She had to turn evil to escape her nightmare, and she's not a happy person. That's not the look of someone sad their life is coming to an end. That's relief. Okay, I just listened all that back and I want to be clear. Sometimes I avoid the obvious. Mama is still evil. Nothing excuses the evil things she does. She's trying to murder her own guy for a lot of the movie to avoid him being interrogated. And you could say that sort of like the inverse of the Civil War question about heroes breeding better criminals. In Megacity 1, the Mama level criminal created the ruthless judging system. Okay, was that clear? Mama is still bad. At some point you become responsible for your actions regardless of how much of a victim you might be. Then, on the other side, something that may actually get a little lost in the translation from comic to film is the totalitarian subtext of Dredd. Sometimes not even sub, just text. I mean, he wears red and black. Each member of Megacity 1's police force is judge, jury, and executioner. There's a reason those three bodies are usually separate entities. It's called checks and balances. I'm by no means a Dredd comic expert, but I feel like some of the satire and parody prevalent in the pages may slip past some American viewers. Dredd is not a good guy. He's not a hero by even loose standards. We still root for him. For some reason we excuse him slow-moing Mama to the lobby because she's a baddie? She did the same thing to the dealers encroaching on her turf and it was like the intro to her brutality. Dredd is this badass symbol, but a symbol of what? How much I like him probably says something about me. This is not me getting political. I'm sure there are some real-world correlations, but I'm expressly concerned, as I always am, with what the movie is trying to say or make me think about. I believe the hero of this story is Anderson. We start the film with Dredd witnessing some low-level criminals manslaughter a civilian, which makes him change their sentence to death. And for the purposes of this film and world, fine, maybe that's how it has to be done. Maybe it's statistically the best way to save lives. But that doesn't mean right and wrong is a line with clear black edges. Anderson, in her desire to be a judge, follows Dredd's order and executes a wounded criminal. Granted, he was trying to kill them. By their laws, he was sentenced to death. And he was still reaching for his gun. But the reason we're shown his widow and orphan baby later is for the seed of doubt to be planted in Anderson's mind. I'm not saying that marriage and procreation make you innocent or deserving of mercy, but the world they live in has blurred the line between the perps and the victims. The difference between these kids with guns, clearly scared for their lives, and the adults with guns is fairly nominal. They're all caught between a rock and a hard place. A knife and a hotshot. Before spending the day with Anderson, Dredd didn't have room in his head for that paradox. I think this line,
Something else, something behind the controls,
is the first glimpse into Dredd questioning the system, then being subjected to and almost dying at the hands of the corrupt judges were all little steps. When Anderson frees General Hux because he's a victim, I think that's the moment something changed in Dredd. And passing Anderson was his acknowledgement of that. Sure, it's like the flattest character arc ever, but it's there. He's initially completely indignant when he finds out she failed the first test.
her final score was only 3 points below a pass. It's marginal.
It's not marginal. She failed.
But then passes her when she admits herself she automatically failed. Yikes, that's a lot of subtext for a big, loud, dumb gorefest. But it's there, and it's why this movie is better than that. But also, it's a super fun movie to watch. That's all it needed to be, and it totally succeeded. I like the morality conundrums. I enjoy seeing where I land in hypothetical impossible scenarios. Not everything's a trolley problem, but also not everything's Sauron. And you can ignore all that and just enjoy the badass action. Alex Garland has yet to write something I didn't love. Needless to say, I'm excited to go see Annihilation. Next week, that other one I talked about from last week that was maybe going to be this week, but now it's next week. Yeah, you're with me.
Show me what you got.
Oh yeah, you gotta get swifty. You gotta get swifty in here.